Hi everyone, I'm Rina Newton from Code Clarity, and this video is brought to you in conjunction with Vidori as part of their Compliance Hot Topic series. Today I'm going to be talking to you about review, the who, what, why, and how. We all know that pharmaceutical companies want to be more efficient when it comes to approval in general, but that means we need to know where we're at now. We need to know what our targets are, and then, and only then, can we start thinking about the steps that we're going to take to get there. And there are a number of different ways that companies can achieve approval efficiency. The one I'm going to talk to you today about is a bit more related to reviewers in general. So let's start with two really important things about the approval process. You might call that copy approval, MLR, or promotional review, depending on the country and the company that you're working in. The first thing to note is that a robust approval process underpins self-regulation. And the second thing to note is that commercial excellence depends on an effective approval review process. So let's start with the who when it comes to review. In terms of approvers, the European FPA code talks about scientific services, and that includes doctors and pharmacists who can approve promotional material. Now, national codes reflect the FPA code, but they have their own variations. So, for example, in the UK, we have approvers called final signatories. In France, they have responsible pharmacists and so on. But when it comes to reviewers, it's slightly different because essentially anyone can be a reviewer as long as they've been well trained to do that. So the next big question to ask is, what is review? Interestingly, none of that's in any of the national codes. You won't find it in legislation either. So review is basically a competent check of whether farmers' promotional and non-promotional material complies with national codes, with the summary of product characteristics, and with the available evidence. And that means the check has to encompass technical requirements, factual accuracy, substantiation, balance with respect to safety, and all sorts of other things. But once that review is complete and everyone's happy, only then can an item really progress to approval stage. In terms of how review takes place, well, this is actually quite contentious. And that's because companies vary. They vary in terms of the approval system that they use and whether that system is used well. They vary in terms of the numbers of reviewers that they use and where these, people come from, which departments, how long review takes, and how many review rounds are involved in the approval of one item. It also varies because reviewers' comments aren't always consistent, and the nature of their comments can cause a bit of frustration. So the consequence of this sort of vast variation across the industry can be the ultimate difference between an efficient approval process and an inefficient one, which, as I said, it usually relates to pain and frustration with individuals and teams. So if we go back to the start and what I said about robustness and commercial effectiveness, we have to improve our approval efficiency if we're going to hit these targets, whether that be speed, whether that be quality or ease of use, and so on. So it's not just about how an approval system is used, it's also very dependent on lots of other things that are offline, which can't be captured by the approval system. Things like, are we having offline approval meetings? Is there great cross-functional teamwork in place, which, encompasses planning and communication? Is there a shared understanding of business objectives, which usually helps everyone be really constructive? And lastly, one of the biggest things is submission quality being checked beforehand? So I hope that's given you a good flavour of the kind of key questions that relate to review. If you do have any questions about it, please do let me know. That'd be really great, and I will absolutely promise to answer all of those. Thanks so much for listening.